Good morning, and thank you so much for tuning in to Saints Peter and Paul Lutheran Church for your worship today. I don't know what day it is for you. It's Sunday here, and it's the last Sunday of July, and so we are gathered again outside today for our outdoor worship. We do this once a month at the end of each summer month, and in the past we had live streamed these services at the same time in which they were occurring, but we always had technical difficulties when we tried to do that. It was a pretty challenging thing from a technical standpoint. And so instead of giving you a less than ideal content, what we wanted to do this year is instead share a little devotion with you, give you a sense of where our service is going, but then really invite you to lean in and listen to the service after we have been able to upload it in a better way than live streaming. So that'll be available tomorrow. It'll be a part of our Monday morning email. If you're not receiving that and would like to, just go to copperluth.org/subscribe, or you can call the church office here at 906-482-4750. We'll be happy to give you the links or get you subscribed. But it's good to be here with you today. I'm glad that you're leaning in at this particular time for you to come into the presence of God, to consider who God is. And that's what we just got done doing the last 4 weeks at Saints Peter and Paul. We did a sermon series on God is, looking at 4 different attributes or characteristics of God. And this week, we're starting a new sermon series, but it's sort of, you might say, the finality of the God is series. You know, if I was to ask you, what is God? Pick one word and tell me what God is. I think a very common answer would be, well, God is love. What better word is there to describe who God is than love? And that's actually a Bible verse. In 1 John 4, John says, God is love. But what does that mean? That's what we're going to explore in the next several weeks at Saints Peter and Paul. What is love? What does it mean that God is love? And so I invite you at this time to reflect with me. What does it mean that God is love? You know, in our culture today, there's a whole lot of people who talk about love. There's a lot that's said about love. Love is waved as the name under which many banners fly. Love is used as the justification for all sorts of actions, right? You do this or that because you love somebody, right? Or we do this because of our love. But I wonder if in our culture today, it's not so much that we experience that God is love, but rather that love is God. Love is God. And what I mean is that love becomes this idea by which groups and people, they sort of justify the things that they do, imagining that, well, just love, it's an inherently good thing. It can't be wrong. If I love and my actions are motivated from love, then there can't be anything wrong with it. But the problem is the same as our series title. What is love? What do you mean? The problem for us in the English language is that we just have the one word to describe love, right? We use love to talk about all sorts of things. I love pizza. You know, I love my mother. I love my wife. Not in that order, by the way. But in other languages, there's more words to describe this ambiguous enigma that love is, this wonderful, complex thing that love is. In particular, in the Greek language, the language of the New Testament, there's 4 words for love. And that's what I'll share today, that there's 4 different words that the New Testament uses to talk about love, the language with which the New Testament is written. And those words are storge, philos, eros, and agape. Okay, storge, philos, eros, and agape. Now, storge is family love. Right? This is like the idea that blood is thicker than water. You know, that you're going to love your family no matter what because they're your family. I mean, what else can you say? It's the kind of love that a mother has just inherently, inborn for a child. And a sort of willingness, almost a primal instinct to defend their child, to love their child, to give to their child. But as that child grows, you realize that this love is reciprocal, right? It's not just that the mother loves the child, but the child also loves the mom. Articulates it in little swoons and cries as a babe, but as they get older, through thanks and gratitude for all that the mother has done or the father has done. That's storge. Then there's philos. That's friend love. This is different than storge because, well, you don't choose your family, but you do choose your friends. It's a love that's based not so much on looking at one another, but at looking at something else, right? C.S. Lewis said that a friend, the experience of friendship is when you say, "What? You too? I thought I was the only one." There's this shared vision, shared love for something. So that's storge, philos. Eros is the Greek word for love that talks about our sensual and sexual love, right? It's the Greek word from which we get our English word erotic. But it applies to more than just sexuality. Eros also encompasses all of the sort of need-based loves that we have in a wider sense. So my love for pizza would be an eros love. But the love that John's going to talk about, the love that the Bible is going to speak to us about, is the greatest of all four loves. And it's called agape. And what agape is an unconditional love. It's a love that gives without needing to be returned, right? It's not just the mother love that's reciprocal. Friendship is reciprocal. If it's not friendship. Eros is reciprocal. If it's not, well, I feel bad for you, or you should be concerned because maybe the person that you have felt those feelings of love about has found someone else they feel those feelings of love about. But agape is different. Agape loves without seeking reciprocity, without seeking anything in return. And it is the one love that supports all the rest. It might even be the love that the rest sort of point to or are perfected by. And I'll show you what I mean. I quoted Lewis already once, and I'm going to draw upon him extensively in the sermon today because he wrote a book called The Four Loves. And I don't know anyone else who has articulated so well the differences between these loves. And what he shows is that there's a shortcoming for each one of these loves, right? They sort of turn in on themselves, which is why when you hear people use love in the world, and sometimes it hits you in a weird way, you say, is that really love? I mean, they're calling it love. This is why. Because these other three forms of love, storge, philos, eros, they can't support themselves. They need agape underneath them. And Lewis points this out. He shows that, for instance, eros, romantic love. It's dangerous, but not for the reasons which might immediately come to mind, especially in the context of a church setting. You know, sometimes we're very quiet on the topic of sexuality. But I wonder, is this to the damage of eros? You see, eros is a gift from God. And it's a danger, not because it's a bad thing, not because it's an evil thing, not because it's a dirty thing. It's actually a danger because it's such a good thing. Your sexuality, my sexuality, is a good thing given us by God. But it becomes dangerous in that it is so good. It's the good things in life that we're more inclined to worship. And what does it mean to worship? Spend our time thinking about, dreaming about, fixating upon. To spend our money, right, our offerings, our tithes and offerings. I don't know if you know this, but in the world, the industry that capitalizes on sexuality actually makes more money every year than all 32 teams of the NFL combined, 4 times as much. Why do people give so much money to it? Well, it's an act of worship. How else do we worship something? You make sacrifices for it, right? And to sacrifice for something means to justify an action. I'm going to do this thing. It sounds crazy. It looks crazy, but I'm going to do it because I love this thing. This thing is the most important to me. You know, I think of Taylor Swift. If you know the song Fortnite, she says, "I love you. It's ruining my life." Why is that? Well, because her love, her eros, for another person who is not reciprocating that love, is causing her to have immense jealousy, anger. She muses about murdering the person person whom she loves, eros love, is connected to. See, eros is strong. It needs to be tamed by a higher love. Lewis shows that philos is dangerous too, friend love, which you would never think. It's the least obvious, I think. Partially because we don't value it the way it used to be valued. Lewis proposes that eros, our heightened valuing of eros, has pushed philos to the margins. You know, there was a time in the ancient world, friendship was seen as one of the highest forms of love because it makes you a better person. Right? Who is better at critiquing you than your friends, right? Calling you out on those parts of you that need to change. Friends counsel you, they coach you, they grow you. Love for friends even grows the more people who are involved, because no single person can bring out every quality of another person, but as other people come in the mix, you see other aspects of this person whom you love. But friendship is dangerous because of its pride. And it's very typical. Perhaps you can think of times you've either been inside or outside of a circle of friends who is looking sort of around the room, and, you know, there's eyebrows raised and glances made over to that person over there who they would never fit in this group. They don't share the same love we have for this thing, or they don't embody the kinds of things that we think are necessary to be a part of this group. Lewis says that the danger is pride, that it's possible for friendship to become nothing more than a mutual admiration society. That's a danger. Danger because our egos will take it, accept it, and turn in. And finally, even family love is dangerous when lifted up to the ultimate level. Lewis shares a story about a woman who he calls Mrs. Fidget, who, out of love for her family, did everything for them. Lewis writes, she did all the washing, and they frequently begged her not to. There was always a hot lunch for everyone at home, even in midsummer. They implored her not to provide this. She always sat up and waited to welcome you home. No matter what time you came home at night, 2 or 3 in the morning, didn't matter. She was there, her pale, wearied face, as if almost a silent accusation. And you see, what Lewis is getting at is that family love, when you do things for your family, that reciprocity, that desire to receive thanks and gratitude is lying there in the wings if it's made ultimate. You need it. You feed off of it. It's what becomes everything to you. It's your validation. And so he supposes that Mrs. Fidget, while looked altruistic in doing these things, really wasn't. For one, how could they be things done only for the benefit of those around them if the people around Mrs. Fidget were telling her, we don't want these things? Secondly, he notices how when you don't receive the praise and the thanks that you so desire in these kinds of relationships, a resentment starts to build. You think of that son or that daughter who never calls. You click your tongue, and there's a sort of anger, there's a resentment inside, and we like that. We feed off of that, actually. And we would never admit that. But it's true, and Lewis, he writes this. Concerning this kind of love, he says, if family love is made the absolute sovereign of human life, seeds of hate will germinate. Love, having become a god, becomes a demon. That's the difference between love is God and God is love. What does it mean that God is love? Well, it's that fourth kind of love, the love that John is going to tell us about, agape. It's a love that gives without looking to be received. And for John, it's not just an idea. It's not just some abstract concept that he's going to expound upon. No, for John, love is a person. 1 John 1, that which we heard from the beginning, which we've seen with our own eyes. who was with the Father, but now whom we have touched, whom we have felt. This is agape love. See, love is not just an idea. Love is a person. God is love. Jesus is the embodiment of love. What kind of love? What is love? Jesus didn't embody storge love. His love was not a blood is thicker than water kind of love. No, he rebuked those who he took company with. He spoke hard truths to his family because he wasn't concerned about winning their affections, but demonstrating God's love to them. And Jesus' love wasn't an eros love. It wasn't that kind of love that sort of pulls at our impulses, that is always suffering from the tyranny of the moment, has to give into these impulses and urgencies. Jesus, he would always sacrifice the urgent thing, even the urgent thing for him, like saving his own life, for the important thing, the ultimate thing, agape. Jesus didn't love us with a philos kind of love. He didn't look at humanity and want to be friends with us because he saw something in us that drew him to us. No, the New Testament says that Jesus died for us while we were still sinners, while we were enemies of God, at the right time. Which is why John would say in his first chapter, the blood of Jesus cleanses us. It's this love that we need. It's this love that will enable us to love in all those other ways to the fullest, to the best extent, in a way that doesn't undermine itself, but actually props up, supports, and fulfills those other loves. This is what we're going to explore the next several weeks here at St. Peter. And Paul and I look forward to exploring it with you, with our man John. My question for you today, question for your reflection and pondering, which of these love relationships are you currently in that needs to be radically reformed by agape? Is there a love you have for a family member or a friend, but that's turning in on itself, that's turning into resentment, that needs to be formed and fashioned by a selfless love? Which relationship of yours needs that kind of infusing? And secondly, is there a love relationship you have out there that has started to become ultimate for you? That you find your validity, your value, only in context or in connection to that love relationship? My friends, God's agape love is the fulfillment of that love relationship. Are there any of those out there for you where God is silently peering behind, beckoning you to him, see him as the ultimate, so that you can be established in that love? Blessings to you as you consider your life and your loves. And again, we welcome you back next week as we continue to walk through what is love. God be with you.